Hi, this is Dawn Peterson, and I want to share with you what a watercolor block is. I've used the term online a few times and people don't know what it is. And basically it's just watercolor paper, but what they've done is they have sealed all four edges except for one little gap at the top here, all the way around, so that when you get the paper really wet, it doesn't warp. It works a lot like if you stretch or tape paper down to a nice hardboard, and it keeps your paper from warping when it's completely dried. So you'll feel it, you'll see it warp a little bit while it's wet, but once it dries again, it'll be completely flat like this. And what Blick has is many sizes. They have hot press and they have cold press. I've used a lot of the 7x10s for 6x6 inch artworks. And this one I haven't opened yet, but I've used an earlier block and used it all up. This is a 9x12. Over here is a 12x16, and we have a 14x20 here, a nice big one. And you can see this one I'm getting ready to go. I have taped all around the edges here. Now you may wonder, why are you taping it? Because it's already taped. Well, just because I like a little bit of a white border around the edges. Get that back in focus there. So I don't like to go all the way up and slop paint on around the sides and stuff. So I want to keep a white border around here, and then when I'm done, I will pull this painter's tape off and have a nice white border, and I can cut it down if I want to the edges or not. And I just wanted to show you real quick what it's like to take an artwork off. So here are some sheep that I finished. And I use a palette knife here. I'm trying to do this with one hand here, but you can see there's a little bit of a gap right there. And I can slide the palette knife in here and start cutting this tape, this black tape along the edge. And I cut it all the way around until I get the artwork out of there. And now you can see there are several other sheets in here. There they are. And a follow-up question you may have is, why are you using Blick instead of Arches, which is a very premier, very expensive watercolor paper? Because I do plan to make these sellable artworks, but I think that Blick is actually really comparable. It is less expensive, meaning that I'm not so precious with it. I can go ahead and use it, and if I make a mistake on an artwork, I don't feel absolutely brokenhearted that I spend as much time on it. And I actually did some testing before I decided which watercolor block to go with. Now, as you'll see on this cover here, this is 100% cotton. I like hot press because of the smoothness of it. And a year or so ago, I did some tests. I tested all the different papers that I had, and I collected a number of different pads and blocks and such. So this is Yupo, which is kind of a plasticky paper. You get some interesting effects from that. And I tried a bunch of other things. This is Strathmore. This is cold press. Cold press meaning it's kind of a textured surface. Hot press is nice and smooth. This is Hobby Lobby's version, and that's a cold press. And there's a Winsor & Newton, kind of a more expensive brand, and that's cold press. And fluid paper. And you know what, these first four I wasn't that happy with. Here is the Arches hot press, really nice, looks great. And here's Blick Premier, which is the one I decided to go with, because when I compared these two, I found that they were pretty comparable. The way that they did gradients, we could do some nice layering and still have beautiful translucency. Here is the Arches cold press and the Blick watercolor cold press. And they looked really comparable to me as well, especially when working with them. So this is actually one of their loose sheets of cold press. And then this was from the watercolor block or watercolor pad. So I hope that helps, and enjoy watercolor. Bye.